Hey guys, Tony Rowe here, back with another Lee Chess Rapid game against Alan09. A Ruski. Okay, I'll go knight f6. I invited him to enter the French after d4, e6. He decided not to do so. Can play e4 here. There's also kind of the point between this d4, e6 move order that I don't run into the Black-Mardimer Gambit. I don't run into the Trompovsky or pseudo-Trompovsky. And against things like the Torre with knight f3, knight f6, bishop g5, or the London knight f3, knight f6, bishop f4, I don't have to play with my pawn on d5. I have the option of putting my pawn on d6, which is nice. But I'll go d5 and I'll enter a Queen's Gambit if he wants with knight c3, or a Catalan with g3. Or some nonsense with e3. Okay, I guess I'll just play bishop e7. e3, not the most ambitious move. That is for sure. I'll castle. Takes. I guess he's going to go bishop g3, or bishop d3 rather. Yep. Sort of tempting for me to go bishop g4 and maybe loop this guy around to g6. I know that's a relatively common theme in this line. If he goes queen b6, queen b3, I'm getting my notation all bungled up today. What happens? So bishop g4, queen b3. Bishop f3, queen b7, bishop g2, queen a8, bishop h1. I think I'm up a piece there, so I'm okay with that. Bishop g2, rook g1. Somehow I'm okay with that also. I think I don't have to worry about that all that much. Bishop g4. Yeah, I guess I could even meet queen b3 with b6 if I'm really concerned. Okay, I will take bishop h5 free, though. That seems beneficial to my cause. He can just go completely buck nutty on me with g4, bishop g6, and like, I don't know, h4 or some nonsense like that, but I'm not too worried about it. Okay, so queen c2 seemingly walking into my idea. But I guess I can also take on f3 now if I want to. Not sure that I do. Just from a practical perspective. I could also go knight c6. I presume he would go a3. I could go knight a6. a3, maybe knight a6, a3, c6, intending to put my knight on e6. That's a normal plan. Pretty tempted to just go bishop g6, though I wonder if he can post up after something like bishop takes g6, h takes g6, knight e5, knight b to d7, f4. I wonder if I have to be worried about that. I'm not sure that I do. So bishop g6, h takes g6, knight e5, knight b to d7, f4. Oh, I'm getting... You guys can't see it. Hold on, maybe I can do this. Yeah, I'm getting a reconnecting. This move might never come through. Ay, ay, ay. I could also just go knight b to d7 here. He doesn't actually have a real threat. I wonder if I can go c5. Yeah, it is interesting to go bishop f3, though. Bishop f3, g takes f3, and then c5. And I'm just threatening to go c d e d and just completely wreck his structure. I mean, he would have the double isolated d pawns and then this isolated f pawns. I mean here, and then this isolated d pawn as well. And if bishop f3, g takes f3, c5, d takes c5, maybe I can just bust him open with d4 and takes, try and catch his king in the center. That's an interesting idea. Or maybe, maybe bishop f3, g takes f3, c5, d takes c5, d4, e takes d4, knight c6, double pawn sack, but I'm going to get d4 back for sure. Yeah, okay. I'll do it. This is maybe a little bit risky, but after looking at it for a little bit, this makes some sense. I think logically to open up the game in this case. White's king is in the center, and I have pretty solid development. I think the threat of c takes d4 is pretty strong. I can also go d takes c5, knight d7 takes c5. That's possible. I kind of like the look of d4, though. He doesn't have to take on d4, though. Maybe you can go knight b5 or knight e4. Or maybe I can just go knight c6 and then d4, and then if knight e4, maybe I can. Well, in that case, I could take on e3 maybe, or knight b4 takes d3, then take on e3. I don't know. I got some stuff. I'm sure I'm sure I have something. Okay, now that's interesting. He clearly wants to castle long and make something of this bishop battery and a rook on g1. It's a fair idea. That's for sure. So if c takes d, c takes d, e takes d, knight c6, castle's long. I mean, I'm presuming I can take on d4. It seems so bad to allow c takes d4 and knight c6, but it is kind of risky what I'm doing here. White has the two bishops and a lot of open lines. But, I mean, okay, I've walked down this path already. I sort of have to go this way. I guess worst case scenario, I can play knight b4 and just take here. I'm not down any material or anything. And I would be mostly safe. If only I had a way to get this bishop out of the way with tempo here. I would like to squeak in with rook e8 check and bungle up his king. But, okay, so what am I doing after bishop e3? Bishop e3, worst case scenario, just knight b4 and take this thing and claim that I'm maybe slightly better. My bishop on e7 is better than his bishop on e3, and my pawn structure is much better. So that would be a pretty reasonable way to go. I sort of feel like on a practical level, white should already just castle long and sack this thing. But the problem is after he castles long, knight d4, his queen doesn't have a lot of great squares. And maybe actually after I take on d4 in that case, so like castles long, take here, maybe queen a4. I can go knight e6 and bishop d6 to f4 and trade off this dark squared bishop and try and secure this f4 square for my knight. interesting game so far against Alan09. Okay, he does have 92. I didn't even think of that move. Sometimes I just completely blank on the most obvious moves. Okay, so rook c8 is sort of just calling out to be played here quickly. I'm going to do that. I guess bishop b4 was something to consider as well, but bishop b4, maybe he can just castle long. This move dissuades him. I'm trying to keep his king in the center for as long as possible and keep my initiative rolling. There's nothing more natural than putting your rook on an open file, lined up with his queen with threats. So I'm just going to do that. I'm not going to think about it for too long. I didn't see anything that was like forcing there that was stronger anyway. I could have considered... Oh, sorry. Oh, dear. How rude. Excuse me. I could have considered knight b4. Bishop takes b4, bishop takes b4, but maybe that was worth considering. This I don't get at all. I mean, aren't I just blowing him up after this move? Isn't this just horrendous? Because if he moves the queen, I'm winning all the stuff then? I don't understand. Yeah, this is just over. Kind of a shame. This game was starting to look like kind of a full-blooded struggle here. Okay, this isn't going to go that well for him, I don't think. I mean, he clearly wants bishop h6, which at the moment doesn't really even threaten anything because I have knight h5 or knight e8. Thinking about just moving this dark square bishop somewhere. I guess I can just go rook e8 too. I'm gonna go bishop d6. I'm sneakily setting up some kind of rook e8 check, activating this piece, and if bishop h6, I can just go knight h5, or rook e8 check, and he does something, and then knight h5, and g7 is protected, and also I'm just going to go bishop f4. Again, same theme. I want to trade off one of his bishops. He's got the two bishops. I'd like to get rid of that, and he has this really weak square that I'd like to take advantage of on f4. And to do that, I need to trade off the dark squared bishops. Is rook g5 annoying there? I guess I can just go g6. And then rook takes d5. Wonder if I can harass him with queen b6. Hitting f2, hitting b2. Your standard run-of-the-mill double attack. Let's go for that. Easy enough. Queen and pawn versus rook and bishop should be pretty easily winning anyway, especially with this king. One thing I talked about, I think in an earlier video, is when you're evaluating the queen versus pieces type middle game positions, the most important factors, I think, this is my personal opinion, and I think I probably read this somewhere. Most of my chess knowledge comes from a book. I think the main factors are king safety, weaknesses, and coordination of the pieces. And in this case, king safety bad, weaknesses very bad, and coordination of the pieces not very good. So I would assume that I'm winning in various ways, but you still got to win the one game. So one thing I did not consider is queen takes d4, or queen b2, bishop d4, and I'm getting wrecked after bishop f6. So okay, let's find something else to do here. And another thought was d4, but bishop takes d4 has sort of an identical threat. I guess I can go bishop c5. I want to play bishop d4 and open up more lines. I mean, I feel like this pawn is not as valuable as having the d file open for this rook, so I would be happy to get rid of it. I can go d4, actually, because bishop takes d4, bishop c5, bishop takes f6, my queen now guards f6. So that is possible. Do I want to offload that pawn? Does he have anything else? Like knight d4? But then probably there. Rook b1. Maybe queen a3 hitting this thing. The problem is after knight d4, he's got kind of a nasty threat to go there. Maybe I can. An interesting idea is d4, knight takes d4, rook d8. And then if knight f5, maybe I can go bishop f8 and... Oh, that doesn't work. I'd have to go bishop c5 and he gets to take your check or something. Okay, so this is getting kind of tricky. You just go bishop c5, of course. That is the most mundane option. Okay, let's just do that. I'm sick of looking at this d4 nonsense for just wasting time. Let's just do this. I'm recording this video and my last video. Who did I play in my last video? Ugh, I forget. Recording these, it was a Dutch Stonewall, if that rings a bell. I'm recording both of these videos on 4th of July. My fiance is working at a hospital until 8 in Cincinnati. I'm honestly surprised she hasn't called me in the middle of this video. That's usually what happens. So if I take this thing, he takes with the pawn. I'm gonna do this. B2 is still loose at some point, and maybe now D4 is an idea. I want to find a way to go D4 and have the maximum impact. I'm not sure how to do that yet, though. Like D4 right now just blocks in all of my pieces, and he'll just go something like bishop G5 or bishop H6 and kind of parry the threat. I need to find some way to like forcibly remove this thing from the board. So something like, I'm thinking about bishop takes E3 first, F takes E3, and then D4, but he can go E4 in that case. So I'm still not at all sure how I should be going here. Ooh, one idea that's spicy is knight E4 check. F takes E4, D takes E4 with the pin. And if something like king E2, maybe I can go knight takes F2, bishop takes F2, bishop takes F2, or... Ooh, that's dirty. That is dirt. I think basically I'm just going knight F2 no matter what if he doesn't take it, right? All right, well, let's do this. I think this is his king's in the center. I've put all my pieces on their best squares. It feels like knight E4 might be the crowning blow here. I didn't see that at all. Until very quickly. So he decides to take with the bishop and not take with the pawn. I'm not totally certain that that's the best move. I mean, I still get to open up all the lines anyway, but maybe it's not any worse. I mean, in the other line with F takes E4, I'm winning back the piece anyway. So okay, is there anything that's like winning instantly here? Bishop B4 check. Knight takes B4, queen takes B4 check, king F1, let's say. I'm not seeing it. I do think I probably should just exchange these things, though. Either way he takes, I'm probably just taking on f3. I'm just going to gobble up a little bit of extra material. I do have queen a5 check. Queen takes a2. That's a nice little double attack. Yeah, I mean, again... Yeah, and after this, black is going to have some pretty serious problems on the light squares here, too, I think. So, yeah, again, it's... This is a position where, of course, black is down quite a bit of material anyway, queen and 2 pawns versus rook and knight, but just in general, there are a lot of problems with this position beyond the material. Severe piece discoordination and tons of weaknesses. Almost all of white's pawns are loose, and his king is just so awful. So it's kind of just coming apart at the seams here. Probably just queen a5 check. b4, and I play queen takes a2, and I hit the rook, and I'm threatening mate. So probably he can't go b4. He's got to go something like king f1. King f1. I wonder if queen b5, king g1, queen e2 is better than taking on a2. I kind of want to keep this thing is my only point. But okay, let's play this check anyway. It looks quite good. Yeah, and he quickly goes to f1. Probably the best move. Sadly, the best move is probably the way it should be put. I don't want to lose this thing. But queen b5 check, king g1, queen e2. Yeah, let's do that. I don't think a2 is as valuable as keeping this pawn on the board. I'm not scared of stuff like knight f5. I think maybe even knight f5, queen c2 with a double attack. He can play rook takes g7, but after king f8, he doesn't really have a follow-up, and then all three of his remaining pieces are hanging. So I think that would be fine. Rook d2 is a kind of a serious issue. Probably at some point I'll just go king f8 or g6 and make sure I don't lose via back rank or to some scumminess with my king. I've blown at least one game, OTB game, USCF rated game over the board. I said over the board like 9 times for some reason. Recently, and it really got me thinking that one of the things you really need to do when you're winning is just ask yourself, how can I lose this game? And that almost, because your moves aren't hard to find when you're winning, they just have to not be blunders. So you have to be like, the only thing that really counts is being vehemently obsessive about not blundering in winning positions. And here that would be something like losing to some kind of stupid knight fork against my queen, or getting back rank mated, or you have to try and think of all the ways you can lose and then just eliminate all of the ways you can lose. And then the only thing that is left will be winning options, so I think that's a useful kind of paradigm for winning positions. So I might play something just like h6 here, like real lame, or g6 or whatever. Okay, I'm going to flick rook d2 in first. I think rook f1 is basically forced. Queen f2, king h1, queen h2 is a threat. Yeah, so he has to go there. And now any knight move actually loses to queen f1 and rook d1 mate. Yeah, so I'm just going to go g6, and I'm going to just ask him to find a useful useful set of waiting moves here. Maybe I'll just go, king g7 is kind of asking for it. I'll just go king f8, eliminate any pins. He'll probably go h6. Maybe I should have, I'm going to go, so king f8 inadvertently prepared f5. I could have gone f5 anyway because of knight f5, queen f1. Damn. Okay, so f5 is kind of a strong idea, though. Just intending f4 with a fork, and of course, if I budge this knight, he loses instantly to this. So I think I'm going to go f5, queen e3 doesn't work. Okay, and if again, I'm just being very vigilant about not losing, so I don't think it's almost even hard to conceivably find a way to lose here. But I can do it. I've lost a lot of obviously winning games, so yeah, this is resignable. White is simply just running out of moves almost. I mean, he's basically left to shuffling his rook around to like rando squares because nothing else is possible. Okay, just f4 probably. Yeah. Move your knight, dog. Yes. Get to end with a fancy pants mate. Let's just literally triple check this, because if I give up my queen and it's not mate, then I look like an idiot. Okay, this is a mate. Boop. All right, interesting game. Let's wish my opponent GG. Let's grab the ID here. And let's pop it into the study. Weird game. Weird Queen's Gambit. There we go. Weird Queen's Gambit declined. I'm interested to see the theory here. Yeah, so I'm going e6 in this position just because at the moment I'm kind of testing out and trying to teach myself the French defense. It's one of the only, honestly, one of the only defenses to e4 that I haven't played that much, so I'm kind of inviting it. But also, if you're comfortable with the French defense, this move order has a lot of benefits depending on what you play against d4. So of course I'm willing to go into the Queen's Gambit declined, let's say, after something like this, where I'm playing the Vienna, or the Catalan, where I would probably play something like this. Or after this would just be a standard Queen's Gambit declined, of course. But this has the bonus that I don't have to deal with, let's say, like the Black Mardimer Gambit or the pseudo-trompe, this kind of dumb stuff, or against, let's say, like I said before, the London or the Verisov. I don't have to play systems with d5. I can play systems with c5 and, let's say, like b6, bishop b7. Which are not any better, but I feel like psychologically, most of the people who play these so-called d-pawn specials, or like, you know, the non-c4 d4 lines, are like really happy to have this e5 outpost all to themselves. Regardless of the evaluation, I think they really love having control of the square, so I like to play systems where I play d6 instead. So yeah, there are some fringe benefits to playing this way. And of course, if you're like a Dutch Stonewall player or a classical Dutch player, you can also play f5 here instead. And of course, more normal again would be knight c3 or g3 by a very large margin. e3 is not in my opinion a very good move, just simply blocking in this bishop. And I could go into the semi-Slav here with the Moran, enter the Moran sort of structures with c6, but I think actually, I don't know, somehow that feels wrong to me because the Moran is a totally legitimate opening, but I'm like a little bit less enthusiastic about going for e3 against the Queen's Gambit, so it feels to me like black should play something else. Like, one option here that's interesting is to just go into a terrace defense, where white has played the kind of lame line with e3. Like, this position is, I don't think, all that challenging for black compared to the main lines of the Tarish. So that's an interesting option, but I'm not really one to take on isolated queen pawns. It's also probably possible to just take on c4 here, I see, and then after bishop takes, maybe you just go c5. And this would be a standard variation of the queen's gambit accepted after a6. But again, I feel like you're giving white too much by taking on c4 when he hasn't moved the light squared bishop yet, even though that's a perfectly reasonable opening. Again, I feel like it's you probably make the biggest statement about white's opening inaccuracy by making them play a queen's gambit declined with the pawn on e3 instead of a Moran or a queen's gambit accepted or whatever. So, and somehow after this, I'm not all that impressed by this exchange and then play bishop d3. Of course, white is stopping me from going bishop f5, which is kind of irritating, but I didn't even think of b6, but that's an interesting idea. Looking to go standard Tartakower with bishop b7 and like castles, bishop b7, and just go knight d7 and c5. This probably transposes to some kind of a line in the Tartakower. I'm not all that knowledgeable about the Queen's Gambit decline, these variations specifically, because I have never played them really, and they never really appeal to me. But bishop g4 is a thematic idea I've seen before in other lines of the Queen's Gambit, and so I just decided to give it a shot here. It makes sense to me. I need to fix this light squared bishop, and I need to get it out somehow, and going bishop g4 and maybe going bishop g6 is an easy way to trade off the light squared bishops and nullify the pressure along this diagonal that white normally seeks out. So that's an idea. I'm not sure if it's the best idea, but and h3 I'm not sure about, because like I said, my idea is this anyway. Maybe h3 is just a little bit compliant. And queen c2, there are tons of moves. I could go bishop g6 here, and after something like this, I don't know. Maybe I can go bishop b4. Or after f4, I mean, maybe I can go bishop b4 and just try and take and put my knight on e4 and then go f6 or something. I can't go f6. Maybe go bishop b4 and then take on e5 and then go knight e4 and try to get a bad bishop versus good knight on e4 ending. That's an idea. So my point is something like this. Let's say castles, takes, knight e5, fe5, knight e4. Here, somehow, I feel like maybe white should have some play because his bishop isn't really that bad. But I'm not sure black has any real problems here either. Kind of a mess, actually. Where the hell's unclear? There it is. Yeah, I mean, this move seems playable. I guess if castles, yeah, maybe just knight b to d7 and c6, etc. Play standard Queen's Gambit decline type ideas. Whoops. But it seemed more principled for me to take on f3 and then go c5. I didn't really like this idea all that much until I saw c5, because if something like c6, I was a little bit worried that like e4 here, and even though white has doubled pawns, something like bishop e3, castles long, rook h to g1 starts to look a little bit scary. I guess d4 is hanging in a lot of these lines, though. I didn't really consider that. But I'd have to be careful, because something like c6 here, maybe then white could go e4, because my knight blocks my queen from attacking this pawn, and then something like this starts to look a little bit scary, to me at least. I wouldn't really want to play this position. But c5 makes a lot of sense. I mean, I've already fractured white's pawn structure. This is kind of a mess, and the threat of c takes d4 is quite strong, just completely bungling up his pawns forever. White didn't seem to care that much. I was a little bit more concerned about d takes c5, but it felt like I should, just intuitively, it felt like I should have a lot of options here, like knight c6. Thought about d4, but this looks kind of good. At least it felt good to me. You know, these pawns are sort of falling, and I'm opening up a ton of lines with white's king in the center. But I'm a little bit less sure if white doesn't take, like here. Yeah, and there's the threat of this and takes on h7, for instance. And yeah, this is not as clear. But I think this, just intending this, is quite good. And maybe, you know, in the future, knight b4 is an idea as well. And I can just at some point just take. This isolated pawn is not gonna last very long. I'm gonna get d4 in for sure. So I think that's reasonable. I'm not sure about this though. I also looked at bishop e3. But yeah, this was one line that I thought about. It just seems like maybe I'm slightly better here. Again, based on this central structure with white's pawn being on a dark square and mine being on a light square, my dark squared bishop, I think, has better prospects. Like, this is not a particularly great piece, but maybe after bishop d6, like, my bishop is reasonable. And again, white still has kind of this horrible structure, and I don't have that, so I should be somewhat better here. I don't know how easy it would be to make progress or further improve my position. Again, maybe I can think about capitalizing on this weak f4 square at some point with, like, knight h5, etc., but I don't know. Doesn't seem easy to break down either. But rook g1, I mean, I think this almost just ends the game. Because after knight d4, there's just nothing. And then, yeah, I mean, he almost has to give up the queen because something like queen d1, this is just completely unplayable. This would, of course, be a complete rout. I mean, white is down a whole chess set for basically nothing with no complications. So at least black or white should make the game slightly more complex and play with a material imbalance, but it's kind of ugly. I chose bishop d6. Apparently Stockfish thinks bishop c5 is better. Yeah, sure. I mean, probably is. f2 is a little bit loose. Maybe queen b6 is a threat, etc. But I think it matters not. I was, of course, going for the positional ideas of just like conquering the f4 square when I'm up a queen, but yeah, I looked at this, but I was unsure about what happens after this. Thought about this, and then, but yeah, all of this stuff looked like kind of a savage mess, so I didn't even want to go into this, but it seems like tactically it ends up working out. Because I guess here and just here, and white doesn't really have a way to keep it all together, most likely. But it's complicated still. This just seems straightforward. I mean, there's not much here. And then I think knight e4 is actually quite a nice nail in the coffin because king e2, knight f2. No. Oh, you can take with the king. I'm an idiot. I analyzed only no. Yeah, I analyzed king e2 and I thought knight f2, so that was just wrong. This position still looks quite good for black, but I mean, I'm just sacking a piece for nothing, essentially. So that's probably not that great of an idea. So after king e2, what the heck? Do I just have to move back? Okay, takes. Knight c5, maybe knight d4. Takes. Yeah, I mean, this seems good. I get to pick up a2, and I'm still winning, but it's not maybe as good as I thought. I'm going to change this to an interesting. The game continuation is just awful. This pawn is just a monster. This is starting to look juicy. And I just weasel my way in here and protect this pawn, and then the game's basically over. I do wonder now if, yeah, I was just about to say, I think I have f5 right away. I didn't see it until after king f8. f5 here is just quite a bit cleaner. Of course, again, he can't take because of this mate. And f4 is a massive threat. It basically cannot be parried by any means, so dang. Yeah, that would have been nice. This is a question mark. This move is a question mark. And finally I see it. Okay, so yeah, that's the end of that one. Kind of just honestly a little bit similar of an opening to the Lee chess 45-45 game I looked at, except in this case, in that game, white went bishop e2, and black went bishop f5 or c6 castles bishop f5. Very similar stuff. And in this game, white decided to get the bishop to a slightly more active diagonal, which is probably a good decision. So very similar, though, an e3 queen's gambit where white blocks in this bishop and tries to make something of his position with an exchange on d5 afterwards, which, yeah, eerily similar. But, of course, the games diverged quite quickly. This game was not as well played as that game by either player, and not as interesting. So, okay. Yeah, check out the Lee Chess 45-45 League video, and I will be back with more rapid games, of course. And I have an idea for a new series that I'm pretty excited about. So maybe the first video in that is going to come out pretty soon as well. So, okay, I will see you guys later.